This is Chapter 5, Section 6 notes. Today we're going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines need to have the exact same slope. So all other parts of the equation can be different, but as long as they have the same slope, the same number in front of the x, they are going to be parallel lines. So problem 1 says a line passes through 12, 5 and is parallel to the graph y equals 2/3 x minus 1. What equation represents the line in slope-intercept form? So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so to do this, you have to do a couple of steps. So step 1, identify the slope. The slope is the number in front of the x, so that's going to be just 2/3. Because these are going to be parallel lines, it's going to stay the same number, so it'll stay 2/3. Step 2, plug in the point it gives you into the problem into point slope form. So this will be your x, your y. So y minus 5 equals 2/3 parentheses x minus 12. Okay, so that came from here and my slope. Step 3 is to solve for y. So to do this, I'm actually going to distribute in this 2/3 into the parentheses. So y minus 5 equals 2/3 x minus 8, because 2/3 times 12 is 8. Then to get the y by itself, I add 5 to both sides. So my final answer should be y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Now, if it does not show you or tell you which method or which form it wants, I would stop right here. That equation works just as well unless it describes or tells you exactly what it wants the form to be in. Perpendicular lines must have opposite reciprocals. Reciprocal means to flip the fraction for slopes. So for example, if you have a slope of 1/2, the perpendicular slope, so that upside down capital T is perpendicular, would be, well, first of all, this is positive, so this one would have to be negative because they're opposites. And reciprocal, you'd have to flip the fraction to be -2/1, which is just -2. Okay, so that's what it means, opposite and reciprocals. One's positive, one's negative, and the fraction gets flipped. So problem number 2. Write an equation that represents the line that passes through 2, 4 and is perpendicular to the graph 3 or 1/3. Okay, so this one doesn't tell you what kind of form it's in. So I'm going to stop once I get the point slope form. I have a point, I can find the slope. So problem 1 says identify the slope, then find the opposite reciprocal. So in this formula, I have a slope of 1/3. To do the perpendicular slope, it's positive, so I make it negative, and then I flip the fraction. So 3/1. So -3/1 becomes just -3. So this is my new slope for perpendicular line. Step 2 is to plug in the point that it gives you, so this 2, 4, and the new slope into point slope form. So y minus 4 equals -3 parentheses x minus 2. And again, I can stop right here. I don't need to go any further. Okay, it did not tell me that it had to be in slope-intercept form. So I actually do not need to do step 3. If you want to get it solved for y, this is how you do solve for y. You distribute in, add 4 to both sides. Okay, so you can get it as slope-intercept form, but you don't need to. You can stop at point slope form. Step 3. Determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So parallel would have the same slope. Perpendicular, you'd have one positive, one negative, and the fraction would be flipped. Or neither would be none of those. Okay, so you have y equals 4x minus 2 and -x plus 4y equals 0. So what I'm first going to do is I want both to have y equals. So this first problem is already in my y equals. Y equals 4x minus 2. So I already know that the slope of this first line is 4. So now what I do is I just check, and I need to make this side equal, just be y equals. So to do that, I have to add x to both sides. So solve for y. So add x to both sides. So I get 4y equals x plus 0. And then divide by 4. So if I divide by 4, this just becomes 1/4 x, and 0 divided by 4 is 0. So now if I look, slope of 4 and 1/4, they're both positives. Positive 4, positive 1/4. So they're not the same. One's fraction, one's not. They're not perpendicular because they're both positive. So this would be neither. Okay.